So as some of you may know, pretty much every year about this time, I've done either a write-up or a small video just about why I converted. I know that can get rather boring if you hear the same thing all the time, and that's why I try to change it up a bit too each time. And this is why this year, on the 10th anniversary of becoming a Muslim, this September 29th is when I had converted to Islam 10 years back in 2010. And that's why I wanted to make a quick video this year just explaining how my reasons have changed over the years and what I see that was an issue with the way I explained why I converted in the past. Now, I just want to break it down through 7 different steps there, and that's the mindset at the time of converting. Number 2, a changing mindset. 3, killing your rigidity. 4, the most holistic worldview. 5, basing the religion on beliefs and not the people itself. 6, giving people a chance. And 7, watching out for autopilot mode. The first point is about mindset at the time of converting. Now, at this time, like I said, this was 10 years ago. I'm 28 now. I was 18 at that time. So this is something where people know that as a youth, you can be easily molded, whether that be for the good or for the bad. So that can be coming to truth or that can be being brainwashed. Now, people obviously from my churches would think coming to Islam means being brainwashed, whereas people in the mosque would think this is me coming to truth. Obviously, there's only one truth, and that's a completely different argument in and of itself. But just to say that at the time of 18, this is a time when many people start to make decisions such as this to make a huge change within their life. And that's where in grade 12, I started not believing in the whole idea of the Christian Trinity anymore. And that's what sort of guided me to look into other beliefs. And to be fully honest, obviously, I did not know much about all the religions. There was a basis of each religion that I'm looking at. And then Islam seemed to be the most practical and have the most balanced approach in rules, and also the spirituality itself and having that true monotheism itself. And like I said, this was when I was 18. Obviously, I did not know a lot about Islam at the time. I didn't even know there were different sects, be it Sunnis or Shias or whoever it may be. I did, however, feel that the basis of it was enough to bring me towards that as the truth in this world. Now, this is something, obviously, with time, you always learn more, and you'll never be at the point where you want to convert because you know everything about the religion. And yes, I didn't know much about Islam in the beginning when I had converted. But with time, your reasons can change. You can have very basic reasons in the beginning, and then as you learn more and more, your reasons for being and staying a Muslim evolve. So being in the Islamic seminary for the past couple of years, I've come to learn that the more you come to know or think you know, the less you actually know, because there's so much out there to actually try to wrap your head around, and whether that's in Islamic studies itself or any other field for that matter. So like I said, pretty much every year around this time of my Islamic birthday, I either write something or make a short video about why I became a Muslim. And for numerous years, it was various things such as difficulties as I became a Muslim or while I'm a Muslim, or difficulties that Islam brought me in a secular society. And basically what this does is just create a list of complaints, which I have tried to shift away from and now focus on actually why it is that I am a Muslim. Now, many people who move from one religion to another religion, when they tell their story of why they had converted, they like to explain that they lived this life in a different way before, and now because they converted, they're a completely different person. And unfortunately, this is only true to a certain extent, obviously, because we are all fallible people. So you might have that initial big change of certain things in life, but in reality, there are so many things that you have yet to change. And for that matter, you don't actually have necessarily faith within your heart, but you have changed. So obviously, yes, explaining certain struggles that you might go through might help certain people, but at the same time, you want to try and avoid backstabbing all these people that may have actually helped you throughout the years, even if it was not in the way that was most preferable. So one thing many people go through when they convert to a new religion might be the fact that they become a little rigid with what they believe, and things become very black and white for them, and there's no room for gray in between. And obviously with the truth itself, there is black and white, but as a human who is fallible, there are all sorts of different areas for that gray to come in. Now, when I say become less rigid, I don't mean become more liberal with your religion. I don't mean not to follow the Islamic laws. But what I do mean is not to be so black and white with everything and think that everything is black and white the exact way you wanted it and the way you might have seen it in the beginning. The one thing I'm working on to remove from my ideologies is the fact that not everything is so black and white when it comes to Islamic law itself. And that goes for any religion for that matter, any sect, any subsect within that religion. There are differences of opinion even within those subsects itself. You know, one of the best things that you can do towards someone who is being rigid is obviously not be rigid back to them, but to have patience with them and show them that there are different perspectives out there. The fact that the Prophet was patient with the people around him, the fact that Imam Ali was patient with the Caliphate that dominated at that time. Many people who are being rigid with their mindset probably don't understand the fact that there are different opinions, and that scholar X, who you may think is the most intellectual of all of them, well, someone else thinks scholar Y is the most intellectual and most knowledgeable. These two scholars have the right to different opinions based on all their knowledge that they have gained over the years, and neither one is to be said as to be more right or wrong when they're on the same rank of knowledge. In addition to this point about being rigid, I'm not saying that pluralism is an acceptable view. There can only be one truth out there. Obviously, we are there to seek out what that one truth is, and we are not here to say that all different paths lead to the same God, when in reality only one truth can possibly exist for humanity to strive on. So my fourth point was that I see Islam to be the most holistic worldview, in that you might find pieces of truth in many other religions out there, but like I said, I see Islam to be that one religion that is all-encompassing, that covers everything from whether it's your education, your cleanliness, politics in life, even things like your interactions with other human beings, your sex life, etc. Now, as most of you already know, in Islam there's two different main sources, and that's the Quran, and then there's the narrations which come after that, which go into more detail to elaborate on various laws, etc., that are already mentioned within the Quran. Now, it's the fact that Islam deals with laws itself. This is something that gives room for a lot of rigidity once again, where people might take the legalist mindset as opposed to the spiritual mindset. Now, the Jews have tended to take the more legalistic approach in life, whereas the Christians nowadays as well have taken the more spiritual approach of life, where I see Islam has taken that more middle ground where you want to apply both the legal and the spiritual sides. And like I was saying, I converted to Islam when I was 18. I'm now 28. That's one decade that's passed. And whether I live till 38, 48, 88, we don't know when we're going to die. But obviously within those years, our mindset should keep changing. And if it always stays exactly the same as it was before, then that's a good sign that that person hasn't evolved in their faith whatsoever. The fact that I'm coming to you here 10 years later and saying what I used to think isn't exactly the same as what I'm thinking today is not necessarily me just changing my mind, being contradictory, or being a sellout, as some might say, but simply the fact that with time, different thoughts evolve, and where I'm at 10 years from where I was 10 years before, I feel is a completely different place. So the fifth point I wanted to go through was the fact that many people base their religion on people instead of beliefs itself. Now, this is unfortunate because many times when people start to show their fallible side and they start to show that they do sin, many people start to go away from what the truth is. And they start to drop it, just saying like, look at these people, how can I be in such a religion when people act like this? Fifth point, basing religion on beliefs, not people. This is something where many people end up going astray from the truth, even if they find it, because they base everything on people and not finding the truth or finding that nearness to God. So once fallible people start making fallible mistakes and errors and sins, they look at the people and say, what is this religion? What have I got myself into? And they leave. Now, the way I realized that over the years my religion was being based on the people themselves was when I would get disappointed because I would see certain people doing certain things. For example, women not caring about the hijab as they thought they did, or seeing, for example, many people put business before religion, or for example, when I would see who you might deem to be the religious commit sins, or for example, those who start to make their religion as a checkboard where they must do this and this and this and this without any spiritual component to it, where they must pray 5 times a day, which I'm not saying don't, but they're saying you must pray those prayers, you must do this supplication at this time, you must read the Quran within this amount of time at the program, you must do this, you must do this, you must do this, and it just becomes just ritual without any spiritual component whatsoever. This isn't an Islamic problem itself. Because you might be a Muslim as you're watching this, you might think, oh, why is this in Islam? Why is this that I'm seeing this? But it's the same on the other side when you're in the church, the people saying the same thing about the hypocrites in the church. It makes no difference whatsoever what religion you're in, whether you have a religion or you don't have a religion. It makes zero difference whatsoever. Now, one thing I really learned after coming to study in the Islamic seminary and seeing different cultures is that people are just people everywhere, and they're just trying to go about their day, and possibly if they are a good person, they're trying to seek that nearness to God. Now, many people who are born into a religion, they don't necessarily appreciate it, but at the same time, I can speak the same for converts. I'm not saying converts are any better, because they might look, they might search and go to the religion, but then they go into autopilot mode and then sort of just default and not do any further research. And like I did for many years, like many other people as well, we start to look at the religion for the people as opposed to our relationship with God and our nearness to God. And we start to see that black dot on the paper instead of the white paper with the black dot. We start to see issues within the community instead of the many things that are not an issue. And if we do see an issue, we start to complain about it rather than trying to find a solution to it. And it just becomes a downward cycle. And unfortunately, that brings many people down, and it leaves them in a bad spot, in a bad taste in their mouth for religion, even though the connection isn't even there. There's no connection between the people and the religion. Of course, good fruits come from a good tree. You're going to have the good people from that religion, but not necessarily the fact that the bad fruit means the whole thing is corrupt itself. Aside from looking at the average person and finding their flaws and finding their issues, we must look to ourselves and see that our sins are something that we ignore on a daily basis. And that could be something as simple as gluttony, where in our boredom we go and eat, or our laziness, we go and watch several hours of YouTube at a time for no reason whatsoever. Now, we know we are sinning many times, but we tell ourselves that we deserve this, we need to have all this time off, and subconsciously, many of us tell ourselves that basically we have that right hand to God, whereas many other people, they're basically these horrible people, they're going to go to hell, and they just keep sinning all the time. What's wrong with these people? We're pretty good ourselves. And yes, of course, we're all sinful people, but that shouldn't be the modern approach to it, in the fact that many people say they're sinful people, but they don't want to change it whatsoever. We should be saying that we are sinful people, but this should be something that causes us to make a change within ourselves and try to help other people as well. Now, number 6 was giving people a chance. And this is something very difficult for most of us, honestly. It is something we know within Islam, where we are told to give 70 excuses for your brother, yet most times we can barely even come up with one. We're quick to snap right away if we see that something is either not going our way or we think someone is deceiving us. And it happens on a regular basis to most of us. We don't even give anyone a chance. I'm not by any means condoning the sins of any person, but we do have to understand that everyone in their life is on a different part of their spiritual stage, and there are so many different parts to that they could be on. where if you say the wrong thing to them, it could completely break that person. Now we should be there to try and lift up our other brothers and sisters and try to guide others to the truth that we have found to be the truth. And this goes back to the point about being rigid. This isn't something where we can just attack someone for the way they are believing at this current time, because this could be a time when they are just unaware of the fact that there are other opinions out there, for example, on certain issues, and their rigidity might be due to something as simple as that. But if you attack them, you might cause them to lose hope or lose faith and possibly even leave the religion itself. Everyone is on a different point in their faith. Everyone is at a different stage in their life, and I know as a convert, I went through many different stages that I can point out now, and I can see it in other converts, and I can see it in other Muslims as well. And certainly I'm not at the top-notch stage in my religion whatsoever. I'm constantly working on it like anybody else. But I just wanted to point out a few different examples of where some people might be, where if you attack them for being a certain way, it could drive them away from the religion completely itself. Now, I just wrote down a few points here. Some people might say, why can't I mix sects or religious beliefs? Why can't I bring all the good from the different beliefs together? Other people might be saying they're on the absolute truth and everyone else is wrong and everyone else is going to hell. And that's just how they are for that moment. It might be for a while that they're like that. But it also could just be a various stage that they might be in as well. Some people, they're having debates between the different sects to prove their point, and it's more about your ego than anything else. Other people are saying that their religion is superior to yours. Some people also, they're taking the rigidness of the law and saying this is what it says exactly, and forgetting the spiritual aspect of it also. And other people feel that they have accumulated answers over the years, they've done all their research, and that's it, once again on autopilot, and there is nothing else for them to possibly know about what they have come to know. And that's where within the Islamic seminary I come to see that even the simple things that you might think you have known, there are so many more layers to it than what you think it is. So like I said, with various stages such as this, harshness towards such a person because you are on a different stage than they are does not help anyone whatsoever. Calmness will help with that, even if they think you are stupid at the time of you explaining it. They'll later come to see that, oh yeah, you were right, this is not how I should be with my religion. Now the last point, the seventh point I wanted to make was to watch out for that autopilot mode. And it's so easy to do this in a society that glorifies laziness. Now this is something where, like I said, it's been my 10th year of being a Muslim now, and it can be honestly very difficult to maintain that Muslim identity when I can simply remove this and no one would know I'm a Muslim. Now sometimes it's as easy as that and you go undetected by other people. It's easy to fall into that trap of just wanting to have that comfortable life and not have the worries about anything else. Now, everything in life, it involves maintenance, whether that's cutting your nails, maintaining your house so it doesn't fall apart, or cutting the grass, or if you have hair, then brushing it, which I don't, so 1 point for the bald guys, or maintaining your relationship with people, or maintaining that relationship with God. It all needs maintenance. And this isn't a one-time maintenance. This is something where, like spark plugs of an internal combustion engine in a car, they're constantly sparking to be able to explode the fuel that is coming through that engine to be able to propel you forwards. It's not a one-time spark, where many people, they might, for example, come to a religion and they have that initial spark there and that's all they had. They didn't have any more sparks throughout and they just slowly let it die, and slowly they realize one day that they're going by the title of a Muslim, but in reality they're not doing anything that a Muslim should be doing. And of course, we all go through our seasons of spirituality, and that might peak in Ramadan or Muharram for many of us, and then it goes up and it goes down and it goes up and it goes down. But if you don't maintain it by, for example, praying every day, by reading the Quran, by doing various things to keep your connection with God, then eventually that low point that you hit will just keep getting lower and lower and lower, and there's no autopilot that just keeps you drifting for the rest of your life. your relationship with God is a struggle for a reason. It is something you have to constantly keep working on, and not just something you can sit back passively and hope for the best. And even personally, I know after university, I got married, and then you're working for a few years, so then you're constantly worried about the bills, and then you're thinking you wish you had more time so you could read or listen to lectures. You wish you had time to go to Friday prayers. You wish you had more time at work so you could pray the extra prayers. And then as you slowly start to get that time, you start to waste it. You don't appreciate it. You get it, you say that you're going to do something, and then you think, oh, I just need to relax today, rather than, for example, going across the city to the mosque for the Friday prayers. And for some people, they're naturally more motivated, and for other people, it's hard to get that motivation. But it's not something that where you can just tell yourself you're going to go on autopilot for the rest of your life. You know enough about your religion now that you can just sort of live the rest of your life the way you want to, just focus on work and family and never have anything to do with learning more about your religion. And this is where something within the seminary can be the most dangerous, because you may have a lot of time that you need to study, but you also have a lot of free time where you should be studying. Many other things in life become sacrificed. That could be your family, or that could even be your connection with God, because you think your studies are that connection with God. When you completely leave aside all the extra prayers or any concentration in your prayers because all you're thinking about is studying, then who is that studying truly for? Is that for God, or is that for yourself? Now, it's so easy to go into that autopilot mode because the pressure might be on you to study so many hours a day that this becomes your only focus, and you forget even why you're studying, for that matter. Leisure and desires of this world are many, and we only have a certain number of years here. We don't know if tomorrow we may leave, or if we have another 50 years. But the leisures of the world pull us in, and we often forget to maintain that connection with ourselves and God, and we start to, like I was saying, harp on other people for their mistakes and not look at ourselves for who we have become or who we are becoming. And to conclude, I just wanted to say that basically at this point where I'm 28 years old, I certainly don't have all the answers. In fact, I might have even less answers than when I was 18, or so I thought. And what I do know is that excuses won't get you anywhere. It's not going to help you in this world to just make excuses. And judgment and disappointment in the community and the people themselves, it only turns one's heart towards hatred. It makes it darker, and you become a horrible person yourself without even being able to see it. We need to be able to love our brothers and sisters and not have this negative attitude to point out the flaws of all the others and pretend like we are on this pedestal where we are innocent while everyone else is guilty. Now, personally, I don't know what I'll believe next year or in 50 years if I'm still alive by that point, but what I do know is 10 years later after converting to Islam, I do see a great difference in the process that has brought me to this point. And many people, they might be at the point where they think they have the absolute truth right down to the last point, and everyone else is in hell. But this is something that is very ignorant, and only later can you come to realize it, when you start to see that there are differences in opinion on absolutely every matter within religion. Now, obviously, being in the seminary, the point is to come back and help the community themselves, but the first point is to reform yourself before you can even start to think of doing that for anyone else. And the reason I'm making this video is not to reform anyone else, but to first and foremost remind myself that with time, there are many changes that can occur within your own belief, and that if I see this in the future, I will see how things even change for myself then, and just for others who see themselves in a certain point that they believe a certain thing right now, but at a later point, they will come to see that what they believed was not quite what they were so hard set on in the past.